It was our wedding anniversary, and I threatened to kill myself just to get him to stay home with me. But he stormed out, slamming the door and leaving me with his final words, "Sonny, if you've got the guts, then just go die." And just as he wished, I died. But a year later, he was caressing a photo of me, murmuring, "Sonny, why haven't you come back?" Inside a suite at the Grand Hyatt, my husband, Leo Carter, was fast asleep with his arms around the famous actress Candy Monroe. She was his first love. In his sleep, he mumbled, "Sonny, where's my sobering-up soup?" Candy woke up, startled to hear him say my name. I'm Sonny, but I was already dead, killed in a car crash. The only reason I was here was because my soul hadn't moved on yet. I couldn't understand why Leo was still thinking of me now. It was probably just habit after a year of me being by his side, taking care of his every need. He was used to coming home from his business dinners to a bowl of soup I'd made to help him sober up. Candy pushed Leo's arm off her and whispered, "You want something to sober you up? Fine, I'll give you something to sober you up." He was sprawled out on the bed like a starfish. Candy grabbed a bottle of water from the nightstand. She twisted off the cap and splashed the entire thing right in Leo's face. I gasped, quickly covering my mouth. I had forgotten they couldn't hear me. I was already dead. Leo shot up with a jolt, propping himself up on his hands and staring at Candy in a daze. Droplets of water traced the line of his jaw, making him look incredibly alluring. He touched his face, confused. "How'd we get here?" Candy, looking sexy and seductive in a little slip dress, slowly sat on the edge of the bed. A small smile played on her lips as she lifted Leo's chin with a slender finger. "Don't you remember? You were drunk, so I brought you here, but you wouldn't let me leave." He frowned, silent for a moment, then stood up and grabbed his jacket from a chair, ready to leave. Candy quickly grabbed his wrist, her eyes welling up with tears as she looked at him pitifully. "Leo, how can you just use me and leave?" Leo paused for a few seconds before gently removing her hand from his arm. "I'm sorry, I was drunk. I need to go home and clear my head." As he spoke, Candy's expression crumpled into one of pure vulnerability. Leo sighed and stroked her hair. "We'll get together again soon, and I'll make it up to you, okay?" Watching them, I whispered to myself, "So it wasn't that you never had time for anyone. You just never had time for me." I once thought Leo was my savior. I lost my parents when I was a child, so my grandma raised me. 2 years ago, she was diagnosed with kidney failure. When I found out, I went into a frenzy, searching for a suitable donor. It was Leo who donated one of his. He wanted my money, and I needed his kidney. We struck a deal and signed the papers. During his entire hospital stay, not a single person came to visit him. "Where's your girlfriend?" I asked him one day. His eyes were fixed on the ceiling, lifeless, as he mumbled that they had broken up. "Oh," I said, seeing the pain on his face, and I didn't press him further. I only found out later that he needed all that money to pay off his father's gambling debts. I felt a pang of regret. If I had known, I would have given him more. While we were in the hospital, Leo would often come to visit my grandma in his patient gown. He'd sit and chat with her for hours, making her laugh. The way she looked at him, her eyes were filled with such affection. "Sonny," she'd often tell me, "Leo is a good man you could depend on." I would just nod, and she would give me a knowing look. Leo, sitting nearby, would blush bright red. After he recovered, he started making soup for my grandma, and would even bring a few side dishes he'd cooked himself. I found myself sinking into this comfortable life, wishing it could go on forever. My feelings for Leo were slowly changing with each passing day. But the good times didn't last. Grandma didn't make it through the winter. She passed away the day after Leo and I got married. On our wedding day, she held Leo's hand and made him promise. "You have to take care of Sonny for me," she'd said. "She only has you now." I buried my face in her arms and sobbed. Leo squeezed my hand, our fingers intertwined, and he promised her solemnly, "Don't worry, Grandma. I'll give her the best life possible." After we were married, I handed the reins of my company over to him. I was happy to step back, to manage our home and build a life together. I thought Leo and I would be happy. But things didn't turn out that way. He became so busy he was completely lost. He missed my birthdays and Valentine's Day. He always used work as an excuse. "Sonny, I don't want to live in your shadow. I have to work hard to prove myself." I understood, so I never pushed him. But now, seeing how he was with Candy, I felt lost. Was I asking for too much? No, I wasn't. And then, suddenly, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was the one who wasn't loved. My vision blurred. I guess ghosts can cry after all. My soul drifted after Leo, following him wherever he went, completely out of my control. Leo got home and started searching the house for me. "Sonny, come out. What kind of game are you playing now?" His shouting brought our housekeeper, Mrs. Gable, scurrying out. She said timidly, "Sir, Mrs. Carter, she left shortly after you did." "Is that right?" Leo asked coldly. "Yes, Mr. Carter." He seemed to remember something and dismissed it. "Oh, she probably just went over to Chloe's place." With that assumption, he went into the bedroom alone. I looked around our home. Everything was exactly as I'd left it, which made my heart ache. My soul followed him into the bedroom, where he fell into a deep sleep, completely oblivious to the fact that I was gone for good. On his nightstand was the glass of water I had poured for him. Only a little was left at the bottom, so he must have had some. He didn't realize it yet, but that was the last glass of water I would ever pour for him. Today was our first wedding anniversary. I had given Mrs. Gable the day off, so I could cook myself. I made all of Leo's favorite dishes. They were the same ones he used to love making when my grandma was in the hospital. I had never lifted a finger in the kitchen before, but I went out of my way to find the most authentic chef to teach me how to make them, just for him. When he got home that evening, I had just washed my hands and taken off my apron. I smiled and said, "Leo, it's our anniversary. Stay for dinner." He set down his briefcase, ignored me, and walked straight into the bedroom. He came out holding a folder. I had a sinking feeling he was about to leave again. Sure enough, he glanced at his watch and said, "I can't eat. You and Mrs. Gable can have it. I have to meet a client." I froze. In our entire year of marriage, we hadn't celebrated a single holiday together. I thought about my grandma's words to him and the solemn promise he'd made. My eyes stung with tears. If this was how it was going to be, why did I even get married? Usually, I would have told him to take it easy on the drinks, but this time my voice was ice. "Is it really just for work? Because I happen to know Candy Monroe will be at that gala tonight." He stopped, turning to look at me in disbelief. "You don't trust me?" I just stared at him, saying nothing. After a moment, he said dismissively, "Think whatever you want." Then he pulled open the front door. His coldness finally broke me. I ripped off my apron, threw it on the sofa, and pointed at him, screaming hysterically, "Leo, if you walk out that door today, I swear I'll kill myself." He just watched my outburst, completely unfazed. He slammed the door on his way out, his last words echoing in the hall. "You're insane. If you've got the guts, then just go die." The slam of the door was deafening. It felt like the door to our marriage had just been shut, plunging everything into darkness. I collapsed onto the floor, sobbing quietly. A few moments later, my phone buzzed with an iMessage from Candy. "Leo is getting ready to divorce you. Here are the papers. Come and sign them now." She then sent me a picture of the divorce agreement. I stared at it, stunned, before examining the document closely. I traced the signature on the dotted line. It was his familiar handwriting. My heart twisted in my chest. This whole year, it had all been in my head. She sent another photo, this one of her on Leo's arm, with a caption that read, "Thanks for training my future husband so well." A crushing weight settled on my chest, making it impossible to breathe. I grabbed my purse and stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind me. I drove recklessly, speeding through the streets, growing more agitated at every red light. As I reached an intersection, a large truck suddenly slammed into me from the side. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. The next morning, the sun was shining brightly. I had spent the entire night just staring out the window. Souls don't get tired. So for me, time had stopped. Just then, Leo, still half asleep, reached over to my side of the bed and found it empty. He woke up instantly, propping himself up on his elbow. He looked at the empty space beside him and sighed. She didn't even tell me she was going to her friend's house. And now there's no one to make me soup. Then, as if nothing was wrong, he got up, dressed, ate breakfast, and left for work. The only odd thing was that he kept picking up his phone, only to put it down again with a look of disappointment. Was he waiting for a message from me? Later, in his office, his phone rang. He snatched it up excitedly, but his face fell when he saw it was Candy calling. He answered, and she said playfully, "Want to grab dinner tonight to celebrate?" Leo thought for a moment, then answered gently, "Sure, let's go to that place we went to last time." A bitter feeling washed over me. The attention she got so easily was something I could never have, no matter how hard I tried. In the entire time we were married, he never once had a proper meal with me. So how did he suddenly have time for Candy? After hanging up, he started organizing the contract from the day before, a bright smile spreading across his face. Was the thought of dinner with Candy really that exciting? Just then, he took off his wedding ring, our matching band, and placed it inside a small, elegant box. He tucked it away in a desk drawer as if it meant nothing. I felt a chill run through me, as if I'd been plunged into ice water. Seeing that simple ring sent my mind reeling back to when Leo was at his lowest. He had taken me to Tiffany Company the day he finally paid off all his family's debts. I looked around and picked out the most inexpensive ring I could find. "Sonny, I still have some money left," he said. "You don't have to be so frugal for my sake." He squeezed my hand, his fingers laced with mine, and lovingly insisted on buying a slightly more expensive one. He solemnly signed his name on the certificate of promise. We were just like any other couple madly in love. Everything was sweet and perfect. He didn't have much money back then, but he always wanted to give me the very best. That's why I never took that ring off, not until the day I died. The day he proposed, he asked me, "Are you sure you're not ashamed of me, the way I am now?" I shook my head because I loved him for who he was. I loved that he was a man who could stand on his own 2 feet. Back then, I used to call my best friend, Chloe, and brag all the time. "Leo, my boyfriend. He's tall, handsome, and so incredibly dependable." For some reason, she was always biased against him. "Isn't he just some broke guy? You're just blinded by love." I'd argue back. "I have plenty of money. Who cares if he's poor?" Chloe would just sigh on the other end of the line. A woman in love has an IQ of 0. I didn't care what she said. I was happy. Then one day, Leo picked up my phone, thinking it was his. He happened to see my chat history with Chloe. His expression suddenly darkened. "You really don't mind that I'm poor?" he asked. I looked down and said nothing, and neither did he. After that day, he started working even harder, almost desperately. That evening, Leo got a haircut and a fresh style. He even changed into a brand new suit, the one I had bought for him to wear on our anniversary. But here he was, wearing my favorite suit, on his way to see his first love. My heart ached. I remembered how impatient he'd get when I tried to pick out a tie for him. Is all this really necessary? They're just clients. I'd insist, of course. Our clients are our livelihood. You have to look your best. Now I understood. It wasn't that he was too lazy to dress up. It was that the people he was meeting weren't important enough. But to meet Candy, he changed his entire outfit from head to toe. I followed him to the entrance of a fancy restaurant, where we ran into the client he'd signed a deal with the day before. Leo greeted him with a warm handshake and a huge smile. "Mr. Lewis, come on in. The one and only Candy Monroe is joining us tonight." Mr. Lewis's face lit up with surprise when he heard Candy's name. "Carter, you really know how to treat a guy," he said, clapping Leo on the back. And he was right. Who wouldn't be thrilled to meet a famous actress? Candy was wearing a low-cut, red satin dress and heavy, glamorous makeup. The moment she saw Leo, she rushed over and pouted. "Leo, you're so late. I am starving." She didn't even notice Mr. Lewis standing right behind him. Leo just smiled politely and stepped aside. "Candy, this is Mr. Lewis, our new partner I was telling you about." When neither of them was looking, Candy quickly curled her lip in a sneer. But the expression vanished in an instant, replaced by a calm, ladylike demeanor. "Mr. Lewis, it's a pleasure to meet you. My apologies for not noticing you sooner." She really was a great actress, I thought. One second she was pouting at Leo. The next she was the picture of professionalism. The three of them started making small talk. Mr. Lewis's eyes never left Candy. Leo seemed completely oblivious to the man's lecherous gaze. He stood up and said, "You two chat for a bit. I'm just going to use the restroom." The moment the door to the private dining room closed behind Leo, Candy and Mr. Lewis were all over each other, kissing passionately. The scene was intense. It made me sick to my stomach. A moment later, the door creaked open. Leo was back from the restroom. Candy's eyes widened in shock. She immediately started screaming in terror. "Help me! Somebody help me!" Mr. Lewis, completely bewildered, clamped a hand over her mouth. "What are you yelling about?" What he didn't see was Leo standing right behind him, his fists clenched. Before Mr. Lewis could react, Leo lunged forward, grabbed him by the collar, and landed a solid punch right in his face. "You must have a death wish," Leo roared. Mr. Lewis stumbled backward and fell to the floor. He clutched his bleeding lip and snarled, "You bastard! What the hell was that for?" Candy, looking like a frightened deer, scrambled to hide behind Leo, clutching at his jacket. Leo shielded her with his body, his voice soft. "It's okay. I'm here now." Then he turned back to Mr. Lewis, his face contorted with rage. "You animal! I invited you to dinner, not to assault my guest." Mr. Lewis, still on the floor, laughed contemptuously. Heck, Carter, the only reason I'm working with you is because of Sonny Miller. Leo froze, as if he'd been struck by lightning. Seeing his reaction, Mr. Lewis pressed his advantage. You talk to me like that, and you still expect this deal to go through? But he had no idea he'd just touched Leo's rawest nerve. Leo pulled the signed contract out of his jacket and, right in front of Mr. Lewis, ripped it to shreds. Mr. Lewis, he said, his voice dangerously low, the deal is off. You don't have to worry about doing me any favors for Sonny's sake anymore. Then he tossed the confetti of paper into the air. I suddenly remembered a time before I'd handed the company over to him, when we'd gone to sign a deal together. He was my assistant back then, as well as my boyfriend, and he came with me to the dinner meeting. The client, Mr. Preston, had also waited until Leo was in the restroom to harass me. Ms. Miller, he'd said, be my girlfriend, and I'll add another $20 million to the deal. As he spoke, he placed his hand on mine. I snatched my hand back as if I'd been burned. Just then, Leo walked back in, having only heard the last part of the conversation. What, another $20 million? That's fantastic. I shot Leo a look and politely declined Mr. Preston's offer. After dinner, Leo wouldn't stop complaining about the $20 million I'd turned down. I told him what had happened, but he was dismissive. Sonny, don't you think you're overreacting? A man of Mr. Preston's stature wouldn't do something like that. But now, for Candy, he so easily believed she was being harassed, even tearing up a contract over it. The difference in how he treated us was staggering. Mr. Lewis got to his feet, wiped his mouth, and poked Leo in the chest. Come on, Carter. We're both men. I know what you're trying to do here. Leo pointed to the door and roared. Get out. Mr. Lewis scoffed and left. Leo then pulled out his phone to call the police, but Candy stopped him. She tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear and said in a breathy voice, Leo, I'm scared. Please stay with me. They left the restaurant together and walked out onto the bustling street. Leo's phone wouldn't stop ringing. There were calls from his office and a few from an unknown number, all of which he ignored. When it rang for the fourth time, Candy's face darkened. He glanced at her, then switched his phone to silent. Candy smiled, satisfied, and linked her arm through his, asking him to buy her some jewelry to make up for what happened. But Leo frowned and pulled his arm away. That's not appropriate. I'll wire you some money. I'm sorry you had to go through that. He transferred $50,000 to her account. Candy looked at the notification on her phone and burst into tears. Now, is my honor only worth $50,000 to you? Leo didn't say a word, just continued walking beside her in silence. When Candy realized she wasn't going to get anything more out of him, she fell silent. He kept glancing at his phone every few minutes. Finally, Candy put her hand over the screen. Stop looking at that. Can't you just be with me right now? He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Tears streamed down my face. I had asked him the very same thing once. Can't you just be with me right now? His reply had been, why are you so needy? Just wait until I'm finished with this. That was the moment my heart truly broke. By the time they were done, it was late. Leo walked her home. As he turned to leave, Candy called his name. She threw herself into his arms and pressed a quick, playful kiss to his lips. Thanks for walking me home. I smiled a detached smile. No wonder he liked her. She was manipulative and knew exactly how to flirt. He froze, his brow furrowed in annoyance. Stop messing around, he muttered. On the way home, he finally noticed all the missed calls from Chloe and called her back. Chloe answered and immediately started screaming into the phone. Now, where the hell have you been? I've been calling you nonstop. Leo answered impatiently. Did Sonny put you up to this? This is insane. Chloe's voice was trembling with rage, on the verge of tears. You ungrateful bastard. My Sonny is gone, and you're still bad-mouthing her. You get over here right now. Leo was confused. What do you mean, gone? What kind of game are you two playing this time? You're an animal. I said Sonny is gone. She's dead. Do you understand me? She hung up angrily and sent him the address of a crematorium. Leo glanced at the address on his phone and muttered, Sonny, don't play these games with me. You think I don't know you? He seemed unnervingly calm, but a second later, he slammed his foot on the gas. He sped toward the crematorium, driving faster than I'd ever seen him drive. The whole way there, he kept trying to call my phone. The person you're trying to reach is unavailable. Please try again later. The automated voice repeated over and over. Sonny, pick up the damn phone, he roared, hurling his phone into the passenger seat. The person you're trying to reach is unavailable. He still couldn't get through to me by the time he reached the crematorium. He got out and slammed the car door with all his might, screaming, "Sonny Miller, you better hope I don't find you. If this is a joke, I swear I'll break both your legs." I laughed. He stumbled his way into the morgue. Chloe pointed to a body on a gurney, her voice thick with tears. "She's over there." A bouquet of ice blue roses lay peacefully on my chest. I had told them once that they were my favorite flower. Only Chloe had remembered. Leo looked at the white sheet covering my body and asked Chloe calmly, "You just can't stand to see Sonny and me happy, can you? Playing a sick joke like this." Chloe covered her mouth, her eyes already red and swollen from crying. My heart ached for her. I reached out to wipe away her tears, but my fingers passed right through her. Leo walked slowly toward my body. He stood there for a long time before finally, with a look of grim determination, he lifted the sheet. He stared at my pale, lifeless face, his atoms apple bobbing. Then he clutched his head and slowly sank to the floor, a choked sob escaping his throat. "Impossible. You're all liars. She was just arguing with me 2 nights ago. She was fine." He held my body for a long, long time that day. It was ironic. He'd never held me like that when I was alive. In the end, he signed the cremation order and watched as I was reduced from a person to a small, square box. He stared at the urn, his trembling hands covering his face. Tears streamed through his fingers as he choked out, full of regret. "I'm so sorry, Sonny." But what good was sorry now? The next day was my funeral. Leo sat in the back of the chapel, clutching my urn, his eyes vacant. He wouldn't let anyone near me, not even Chloe. He was playing the part of the grieving husband perfectly. I had to wonder if he'd taken acting lessons from Candy. Friends and family came to offer their condolences, trying to comfort him. He just sat there, not responding to anyone. After a few words, Chloe would gently steer them away. "Please, find a seat and make yourselves comfortable." That suited me just fine. I never liked a lot of noise. Suddenly, a woman in a flashy outfit appeared in the crowd. It was Candy. She scanned the room, and her eyes lit up when she saw Leo sitting in the back. One moment her face was bright with excitement. The next it was streaked with theatrical tears. "Oh, my dear friend Sonny, how could you leave us so soon?" she wailed. Her outburst drew the attention of the crowd, and people started whispering, "Isn't that the actress from Summer Falls? What's she doing here?" "I think it is. I love her. I'm going to ask for her autograph later." I never knew Sonny was friends with someone so famous. A smug little smile played on Candy's lips. Leo obviously noticed her too. He just glanced up at her, his eyes weary, before looking down again, as if the world around him didn't exist. He stroked the urn and whispered, so quietly only he could hear, "Sonny, it's too loud in here. Let's go get some peace and quiet." Candy immediately stopped her fake crying and grabbed Leo's arm to stop him. "Leo, where are you going?" she asked in a frail voice. Annoyed, he shook her hand off. Chloe saw the whole thing and said, her voice dripping with sarcasm for everyone to hear, "Well, Candy, I've seen it all now. My friend Sonny is barely cold in her grave, and you're already trying to take her place. You." Candy sputtered. Candy's face flushed red, and she was too flustered to speak. She turned to Leo for help. "Leo, are you just going to let her talk to me like that?" Leo, still holding my urn with his back to her, let out a heavy sigh. "Just go," he said. "We need some quiet." His voice was laced with exhaustion and despair. I replayed his words in my head. Was he talking about him and me? "But Leo, you've always loved me. You begged me not to leave you, remember? Are you going to deny that now?" Leo stopped, turned around, and snapped at her. That's enough. He still cared about what she thought, cared that she was reopening old wounds he'd tried so hard to bury. In the end, Chloe kicked Candy out, saying she didn't want her tainting my final journey. My best friend really did know me best. Friendship is so much more reliable than love. When Leo got home, he locked himself in our bedroom and started drinking. He opened a bottle of expensive red wine he'd been saving for years. He got drunk, swirling the wine in his glass as he sat on the floor by the bed. He drained glass after glass, with no restraint. The warm glow of the bedside lamp did little to pierce the darkness of the room. After a long silence, he lifted his flushed face and mumbled, "Sonny, why did you leave me?" I smiled a bitter, mocking smile. How could he say I left him? He was the one who told me to go die if I had the guts. Suddenly, he seemed to remember something and pulled a glittering diamond ring from his pocket. He held it up to the soft light, letting it sparkle. Then he started to cry like a small child. "Sonny, do you see it? This is the ring I promised I'd buy for you. Can you see it?" He clutched the ring to his chest, his shoulders shaking with sobs. The day of the accident, I was thinking that as soon as I closed that deal, I would hand over the company to someone else. Then we could finally travel the world together. I was stunned. Wasn't he planning to divorce me with Candy? He pulled a crumpled world map out of a drawer. I'd never seen it before. He gently unfolded it and smoothed out the creases. It was covered in handwritten notes. He started murmuring the names of different places, as if he were talking to me. Look, Sonny, here's Iceland. You said you wanted to see the northern lights, so I was planning to take you next month. He pointed to another spot on the map, his voice thick with emotion. And you said you were dying to try real gumbo, right? He pulled out his phone and opened a travel app. He had plane tickets to New Orleans for next Monday. He wiped a tear from his eye and said softly, "See, I even booked the hotel. A king-size bed in a really romantic little place." I had no idea when he had started planning all of this. It all felt so fake. When he told me to die, he had been so certain, so cold. He rambled on, his words slurring together. I remember I promised you we'd replace these cheap rings one day. But after I took over the company, I never had any time for myself. I just wanted to prove myself so badly. But I ignore how you felt. I'm the one who should be dead. I knelt beside him, asking the empty air in disbelief. Then why did you have time for Candy, but never for me? As if he could hear me, he continued. It was my fault. I shouldn't have asked Candy to help me pick out your diamond ring. I just thought, being a woman, she'd know what other women like. So that's what it was. He was with her to pick out a ring for me, but I still couldn't forgive him. The more miserable he was, the better I felt. This was the price he had to pay for not caring about me. And he slurred. The other night, when she asked me to celebrate, I only agreed because I remembered Mr. Lewis saying he was a big fan of hers. I invited him right after. She was just a pawn to close the deal. By the time he finished the last glass, he was completely passed out. In his eyes, everyone was just a pawn on his path to success. I looked at the empty bottles scattered across the floor and felt nothing but irritation. The next day, he didn't go to the office. Instead, he put on a black suit and a black hat. He took the new ring with him, and holding an umbrella, he went to take the bus. He muttered to himself, oblivious to the people around him. "Sonny, back when your grandma was still with us, you used to ride the bus with me. Just a broke loser, so I wouldn't feel ashamed. When did everything change between us? Was it when we got married? Or when his first love came back from overseas? Or was it when he took over the company and became so busy and cold? I couldn't remember anymore. All I could remember were the countless nights I spent all alone. Leo knelt at my grandma's grave for a long time. He pressed his forehead to the ground over and over until it started to bleed. Grandma, Ive singt. I failed to take care of Sonny. Please, please forgive me. He pressed his palms together, crying as he begged for her forgiveness. It was almost funny. He never thought to treat me well when I was alive, but now that I was dead, he was drowning in regret, crying in my grandma's grave of all things. How pathetic. Grandma, the day before Sonny died, she asked me to make her some soup, but I said no. It was true. The night before our anniversary, I had some wonderful news to tell him. When he came home that night, I was feeling playful for once. I told him I was craving the soup he used to make, but he just got into bed and kept working. After I finished this project, he'd said, he was always busy, but I couldn't wait any longer. Just then his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, saw it was Chloe, and declined the call. 10 seconds later, a text message popped up. Do you want to know who killed Sonny? If you do, answer your phone. I glanced at the screen, and my entire being went rigid. Was I murdered? Leo cursed under his breath. When is this going to end? Sonny was just buried. He called her back. Chloe's voice was ice. Leo, did you know? It was your little girlfriend, Candy, who killed Sonny. Leo frowned, not believing her. Chloe, Sonny was just buried. Don't start trouble. Chloe let out a bitter laugh. You don't believe me? Then get down to the police station right now. Leo looked at the address Chloe had sent, then looked back at the grave. Grandma, I'll be back. If Candy really is the one who killed Sonny, I'll make her pay. At the police station, Candy was in handcuffs. The moment she saw Leo, her eyes lit up as if he were her savior. She rushed toward him, grabbing his shirt. Leo, help me. Everything I did it for us. Leo stared at her beautiful face in disbelief, his voice shaking. Was it really you? Did you kill Sonny? She looked down, saying nothing, just sobbing quietly. Leo just stared at her, lost. Chloe walked over and threw a thick file of evidence at his chest. She shot a hateful glare at Candy, then turned to Leo. Look at what this woman did. She killed my Sonny, the best person in the whole world. Leo's hands trembled as he opened the file. The first thing he saw was the iMessage conversation between me and Candy from the night I died. He looked at it, confused. Divorce? What did I ever say I wanted a divorce? He flipped to the next page and saw the photo of him and Candy together. He froze, then looked up at her, understanding dawning on his face. Candy, why did you send Sunny that picture from the gala? I took pictures with everyone that night. Why would you make her think it was something else? He roared, his eyes filled with a rage so intense it looked like he wanted to tear her apart. Candy was still playing the victim. Leo, you have to believe me. I am innocent. My only crime was loving you. Chloe stepped forward and slapped her hard across the face. You're a homewrecker, and you have the nerve to call this twisted obsession love? The slap stunned Candy into silence. Leo, his body shaking uncontrollably, forced himself to keep reading. The next page was a bank statement showing a $2 million transfer to a man. That man was the driver of the truck that had killed me. My mind went completely blank. Chloe's voice was filled with fury. This woman hired a hitman just to be with you. You, Leo Carter, you're the real reason Sunny is dead. Leo's pupils contracted to pinpricks. He stood frozen, as if his soul had been ripped from his body. I killed her, he whispered in horror. It was me. Chloe continued, her voice cold and steady. And you know what, Leo? Sunny was never ashamed of you. You were the one who couldn't get over it. She knew all about your pride and your insecurities. She came from a world of privilege, but she ate at cheap diners with you, rode the bus, and pretended to be a junior employee at her own company, all to make you feel comfortable. And you thought she was mocking you. He clutched his head, shaking it back and forth in denial. After you got married, she gave it all up to be a housewife, waiting for you to come home every night. But you were always so busy you just collapse in a bed. And on top of all that, you couldn't even keep your distance from other women. You knew this snake was slithering around, but you did nothing. You just let her provoke Sunny. After her tirade, Chloe collapsed into a chair, clutching her chest and gasping for air. She was truly furious. Meanwhile, Leo had flipped to the last page of the file. It was the surprise I had been planning to tell him about on our anniversary. It was my pregnancy report from the hospital. I was pregnant with his child, 1 month along. It was as if Leo's face was slowly being ripped apart. He finally completely broke down. He clutched his head and sobbed, a raw, guttural sound, before collapsing to the floor. Candy and the truck driver were convicted of first-degree murder. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. They would never see the light of day again. My unborn child, and I could finally rest in peace. My best friend, Chloe, blocked Leo's number and deleted him from her life. And Leo? He left the company to someone else and took the diamond ring he was supposed to give me. He started traveling, all by himself. Everywhere he went, he would take a picture of the ring. He would talk to himself, too. Sunny, this place is beautiful. The lake is so blue, just like those ice blue roses you love. Huh, I didn't think you remembered that. Sunny, I'm at that little place in New Orleans you were always begging me to take you to. I tried the gumbo. It's pretty good. He forgot that I liked it with extra sausage. Sunny, look. The northern lights in Iceland. They're breathtaking. That eerie green is so beautiful. He lay on his back in the snow, staring up at the sky. Eventually, he came home. Mrs. Gable had been let go a year ago. Leo took out his key and put it in the lock. When he opened the door, everything inside was exactly as it had been the day I left. Except now, everything was covered in a thick layer of dust. He cleaned the entire house, from top to bottom. Finally, he picked up a framed photo of me and wiped the glass over and over. Sunny, he whispered to himself, we've had our fun, we've had our fights. Isn't it time for you to come home now? A single tear fell from his eye and hit the glass, shattering into a tiny, crystalline flower. My form began to grow transparent. I knew it was almost time for me to go. The next day was the anniversary of my death. He no longer looked like the disheveled traveler he'd become. He had shaved and put gel in his hair. He was dressed in a sharp suit. Sunny, I came to see you. He was holding a bouquet of ice blue roses and a bag full of my favorite snacks. You always had such a sweet tooth. You loved all this junk food. But when you were here, I never once thought to buy them for you. That was my fault. In your next life, don't ever meet someone like me again. I didn't deserve you. It was strange. Just a moment ago, the sky had been perfectly clear. But now, a fierce storm was raging. I couldn't tell if it was the rain on my face or my own salty tears. My soul grew more and more transparent until it finally faded away, carried off by the wind. Goodbye, Leo. In the next life, let's never meet again.